My husband Brian and I bought Hobo Ranch 5 years ago. I have a background in fashion design. I went to school in San Francisco and worked for small designers for years. So combining my love of fiber with my love of tending the land, we decided to get a small flock of sheep. We have Rambouillet and Romney. They're a dual-purpose breed with an emphasis on strong, soft fiber. Each of our animals has a unique personality. They're all my best friends, even though some of them don't realize it yet. For me, there's no greater joy than tending my flock. Checking in daily with the herd grounds me and sets a precedent for the day and punctuates the night. We have 2 guard donkeys who tend to our flock and add personality to our farm. We have around 100 chickens and supply eggs for our local community. Our days begin and end with feeding animals: chickens, ducks, sheep, dogs, donkeys, and even the kids. Our sheep wear coats to protect their fiber. We don't have green pastoral land. We have bracken, willow, and thistles. Since our land is covered in snow for about 5 months out of the year, we also feed grass hay. Sheep are not the cleanest of eaters. The coats help with this too. Being able to create yarn from our sheep has been 4 years in the making, and we're so excited to debut it at this year's Yarn Crawl. People are always saying they want goats or guinea pigs or rabbits or a boa constrictor, but sheep are so full of personality and so fun to be around. Plus, they give you amazing fiber. Gucci is one of the first 3 sheep that we got. She's a Rambouillet Romney, beautiful chocolate brown color. She has a lot of guard hairs, especially in her neck area, but her fiber is so soft and beautiful. When we take the jackets off, you can see how just the very tips of this fine wool get a little bit matted. This easily comes out once you've washed the fiber. Come join us in the studio and meet Elizabeth Dougherty and see our pattern for this year's Yarn Crawl.
This year I'm super excited because I got 400 pounds of my fiber produced into yarn. And it didn't take that much convincing. In fact, Elizabeth thinks she might have convinced herself, but I convinced Elizabeth to work with me to produce a special pattern for the Yarn Crawl. So this is merino. It has a very small content of alpaca, but it's a beautiful creamy white yarn, and Elizabeth is going to introduce you to the pattern.
So I'm calling this the Mountain Town cowl. And it's a really simple design. It might look a little complicated with the lace, but it's not, because really it's just knitting 2 together and then making a yarn over. And it'll use 1 skein of Heather's gorgeous yarn, yet to be named yarn, right?
Yet to be named.
And let me just a model.
So we're giving you a sneak peek of this gorgeous cowl that Elizabeth has designed for us out of our yarn. But the sneak peek that we're not going to give you is what colors we're going to dye this yarn. So Elizabeth and I are going to work together, and we're going to dye the yarn with some of the natural dye stuff that we've grown here at Hobo Ranch. And we will be debuting that first day of the Yarn Crawl.
It's exciting. I can't wait to get into the dyeing and to I love this creamy color. And that's one of the reasons that I named it Mountain Town, because it reminds me, the stitch pattern reminds me of like snowshoe prints or skate skiing track that you would leave. It just, it just feels very Sierra to me.
Well, and I also see, I'm not gonna lie, I also see some patterns of how animals walk.
Mm-hmm.
And I see patterns of how chickens walk and how sheep walk. And I love that when I look at it as well. So one thing I wanted to point out is that Elizabeth is not only a local designer to our area, but she and I share something in common, and it is a background with fashion design. And I was immediately drawn to Elizabeth's patterns because she understands how to fit the human body better than I do, and translated that into knitwear, which is really something I haven't seen. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that, or like the sweater you're wearing right now, that's Uist.
Yeah, this is Uist wool, which is this incredible wool from the Outer Hebrides of Scotland. And they only just spin the natural colored fleece. They don't really do any dyeing of fleeces at all. And it's just this incredible kind of precious stuff that, in a way, it embodies the life of those islands. Like when I wear this, I see the sheep, and Uist wool is also a collective that was formed about 10 or 12 years ago to provide an outlet for the fleece that was being produced on those islands, because they were raising sheep primarily for meat, and they didn't have any outlet for the fleece. It was just being, like dumped in the corner of a field somewhere, or composted, or and it's incredible fiber. I mean, it's really beautiful stuff. So that was a really exciting project for me to work with a yarn that I feel like it, in some ways, it has an importance to the life of the people of those islands. It has an importance beyond just sort of a generic yarn. And that's one of the things that for me is like really exciting about Heather's yarn. It's like, this makes me happy because I've been there. I know the people, I know the sheep, but like this is home. This is the local stuff. As knitters, we're making garments for ourselves. And honestly, I started knitting again when I moved to Truckee because I just wasn't finding what I wanted to wear in the stores. And I think it's kind of crazy to be making garments that don't fit, or that don't allow you to move your arms, or all of those things. And it's honestly not that difficult to make things like that.
Says the expert knitter. Well, and that's one thing I love about you, because the ease in which you talk about your patterns and your fit it brings joy, right? I'm like, okay, your patterns are amazing to knit and they are executed so incredibly, but they're expert. I mean, the way that you fit the human body is from a process that you understand how the human body works. And I think that also ties into the area that we live in, because it's a very sport focused area. So there's a lot of movement. So we're not just going out to eat, which we love to do as well. But, you're not just going somewhere in a sweater that just looks good. You're going somewhere in a sweater that looks good, functions, and allows you to function.
And that you can hug a sheep in.
Yeah, that you can hug a sheep in. Exactly. Maybe you can get dragged around. Good thing I wasn't wearing a sweater when I was dragged around by that sheep.
What I find so interesting about natural dyeing is once you start experiencing it and looking at the colors that you get, at first you might, compare them to commercial colors that are done with diamond dyes and be like, no, it's pretty. It's not more intense, it's soft. And then once you get your eye tuned to the beauty of them, they're just mind-blowing, gorgeous. This little gold, somebody could say, well, it doesn't scream color, but it sings color. It's just that is so beautiful.
Well, I feel like also with natural dyes, it's the story. You're literally walking through the field of marigolds. You may not know it, but you are, and that's, I think that's sort of the idea for me. What connects us to what I also do with Bespoke, which is sell artisan made goods, is it's the story. Yeah. Right? It's the story behind why your knitwear is what your knitwear is.
Yeah, and it's your connection to the world, in a very kind of visceral way.
So one of the things I've been really excited about over the last couple of years is growing some of the natural dyes here at Hobo Ranch. So these are indigo that we grew here last year and the year prior. And this is a fresh indigo dip. So it gives you a little bit more of that blue-green turquoise, as opposed to this is a fermented indigo bath. So fresh indigo is really interesting because all you have to do is pick the fresh leaves. So these are the leaves that we'll be planting for dyeing this wool for this project. All you have to do is pick the leaves, and then like you do with herbs, you go down the stalk, take the leaves off. And actually the way I do it is I put it in a blender with ice and water. You strain that through into a pot with just ice in it, and then you just move the fabric around in there. So if you've tied any designs or done anything, you just move that and make sure that that all of the pigment can get in close to it. And a lot of these are just like single little dips in it, just to kind of see the depth of variety of color that you can get. So traditionally what they would do is they wouldn't be using a blender. You use whole leaves and you macerate it. So you macerate it in a bowl and you go for probably at least a half an hour to an hour, continuously adding leaves. You could do it for 5 minutes as well and get like a nice light turquoise. And I definitely am not the authority on this, but what I've loved doing is learning the process of it. I grew a lot of marigolds. So marigolds create a really rich, beautiful color, and they also create an amazing like undertone. So I'm anticipating dyeing with marigolds and with some of the fermented indigo to get some brilliant greens. You can do marigolds with osage or with cochineal, and you can get some amazing oranges, pinks, all of those colors. And this is Gucci with pearl and dipped in marigold.
That's beautiful.
So this is undone. So the one other thing that I do have here is I have polycops, and this creates a beautiful blue. Like, incredible.
Gorgeous, even just the bowl of them is incredibly beautiful.
They kind of look like cicadas to me.
They do, exactly. And this being a cicada here.
Yeah, exactly.
So what about is that eucalyptus?
Yeah, so eucalyptus, again, I use a little bit more like marigold. Here's just actually a piece of silk that was in there. I use it.
Gorgeous color.
I know, it is gorgeous. I've got also some little bits of silk in different places, but I use it mostly as an undertone. A lot of people will use it to actually print with the leaves, and that makes it really rich if you introduce copper and if you introduce iron. There's a lot of different things you can do. But since California is so full of eucalyptus, I always collect some fruit. So this is last year's. This is sandalwood. And it's just, again, these are just like this very, like you're saying, with that color. It just looks, it's like, it's warm, but it's light, and it also has a tiny bit of brightness. It's just, I love that one.
That's really beautiful.
And then the last thing is these black-eyed Susans, which I actually don't have a sample here, but we'll be dyeing some of those as well.
Nice.
Yeah.